So I'm here with Jackson Gillies, and lots of you will be familiar with Jackson from American Idol and from his fabulous TED Talk that we all saw a couple of years ago. So thanks so much, Jackson, for being here and for your time and chatting to me. We'll start off with a little question. Just can you tell me a bit about your HS, when you first started getting symptoms, what it was like, and your HS journey so far, really?
Sure. And thank you for having me, of course. There's not many reasons to put on clothes or look presentable nowadays, so this is nice. This is some normalcy.
Yeah.
Really, the first thing I had show up was an abscess on my forehead. Named it Bob. It was, isolated incident. It's just this big golf ball sized thing on my forehead. I walked around school. I had longer hair, so I covered it up with my hair. I'd be like, "You guys want to see something weird?" And went to dermatologist, went to a skin specialist, went to a natural, seeing everybody, and they're like, "We don't know what it is. It's probably just an ingrown hair." They drained it out, and right around that time, my mom and I decided to move to Florida. I'm also a type 1 diabetic since I was 3 years old.
Mm.
So we've always been trying to get my blood sugars in check, and exercise and getting outside is a big part of that. But I was living in New York and it was cold for most of the year. So my doctors were saying, have you ever considered moving somewhere more tropical? And they thought the abscess could have been from blood sugar related. So we moved to Florida. I was 14 then, 13 when the abscess on my forehead started, and 14 when I had 7 or 8 on each leg pop up. And I was totally pushing through it. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my mom until about 2 months in. I just tell people I fell surfing or whatever, and band-aid myself up and go to school. And then at one point I just couldn't do it. Couldn't even walk anymore. And like a lot of people, I'm sure, we were met with no answers. As many dermatologists and general practitioners and emergency care people who had no idea. And then finally, one naturopath said, "It's HS, and you got to do this and this and this." And the hardest part, I remember, was learning that I couldn't do the food that I loved.
Mm.
Like, I was like, "I'll do anything. You give me any shot. You can cut my leg off as long as I can eat." I loved food. I was a 14-year-old kid. I remember that was the hardest part. So we started working towards, getting better diet and figuring out foods and doing, like, I don't know if you guys have the test kitchen where you try different things. Like, we were trying sweet potato latkes, and my mom, my stepdad were trying to make all these foods, and they were a huge part of that journey. Then after 2014, but after the doctor was like, "Yeah, you have HS. You're living in like the worst place to have this condition."
Yeah.
Because Florida's hot and humid, and it's not known for its organic food.
Okay.
Um, so we decided to move out to California. We had some relatives who had lived there who were thinking about moving there. And since then, it's been all about diet and really, really figuring out, nailing down exactly what makes me flare.
Mm-hmm.
And in trying the diet, I've tried every other thing possibly imaginable: emu oil, every supplement known to man, every topical thing known to man, hyperbaric oxygen treatments, which actually worked pretty well, um, which is often used for skin burn victims. But the thing that it comes down to for me, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily see it because it takes a long time to get to the bottom of, is elimination diet. It's as simple as something goes in your body, it pokes out of the lining of your gut, of your small intestine. It gets into your bloodstream and it gets stuck where these lymph nodes are. The underarms, women under their breasts, the neck, the chest, the groin, and it starts a war zone. So if you avoid those foods, those war zones can't really, those pop-ups can't really start. And since 20, 2017, late 2017, I can pretty much go flare free most of the time, unless otherwise affected by stress or
Mm.
eating too much of the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's phenomenal. I've tried a few diets and things like that. I still haven't figured out all of my triggers, but I know for sure dairy is one, and sugary foods. Like if I lose self-control and have, I don't know, something really tasty, I know I'm going to suffer. So I really do try to avoid that kind of food. Sometimes it's just not worth it anymore, the aftermath, for
Oh,
me anyway. And like, how relentless HS is and how much it can knock you back. And I find you very inspirational, Jackson, because I've watched your videos, and I've seen you in the media. And I'd just love to know, like, how have you developed this outlook on life? Because I'm sure you have really, bad days as well, but you seem to be able to power through and kind of keep moving, keep on trucking. So
yeah.
tell us a bit about that.
Um, well, like I said before, I've been type 1 diabetic since I was 3.
Mm,
So I sort of have that autoimmune dealing with a chronic condition every day mindset just naturally. There wasn't any other reality that I really knew. Most of my memories started at around 3. And I remember being in the hospital when I was first diagnosed. I was so bored. I was a little kid in the hospital, nothing to do. We had this red wagon wheel. We used it as a hockey puck and just slid it up and down this hallway. I remember that so vividly when I first got diagnosed. Um, but with something like that, I had, up until I was 4 shots a day: left arm, right arm, left leg, right leg. And even before that, I had the mentality, like when the nurse came in to give me my first insulin shot, my parents were like, this is going to hurt, but it's helping you get better. It's medicine. The nurse gave me this shot, and I looked at her and I went, thank you.
Ah.
Which my mom always recalls. And that mindset is just sort of instilled in me. There's nothing complaining is not going to do anything about it. And over time, I've learned that hardship absolutely makes you a better person. Absolutely makes you a stronger person. It makes you more empathetic, for all the crap that you get dragged through. The
Mhm.
stronger you get. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, that's a lovely sentiment. And I can imagine that you use a lot of uh, those feelings to create music and to be creative. Maybe not. That's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of me just assuming. And that kind of leads us on to your music career, because we all know you as a musician and a songwriter. You seem to be making waves. So do you want to talk about a bit about your music career and what you're pursuing now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I I don't want to say, you never really know, but I don't want to say that you wouldn't have one without the other. But I probably wouldn't have one without the other. I was in Florida and I was in bed. I didn't walk for about 2 months, and I was just sitting in bed and listening to the Avett Brothers, this band from North Carolina, folk rock, beautiful songwriters and musicians. And I wanted to learn their songs, and I was like, "This is something I can do in bed." I was a really active kid. I was in really good shape. I played every sport. I was out surfing for like 6 hours a day before this thing happened. I looked like a tater tot. I was golden brown, tan, in really good shape. And then I was just in bed. I totally, I lost a ton of weight, and I didn't have any output. I would, when I was feeling frustrated or whatever, I would go out and play sports. And this was something physical that I could do, that I could have control of. And it was largely mental as well. So I moved to Santa Barbara in 2016, Santa Barbara, California, which I am now. And I somehow won this talent contest. A friend of mine in school said, "Oh, there's this local contest. You should really try and do it." And probably 2,300 people in this venue. I played guitar on stage for like the second time, and I won the contest. And I was like, I think I want to do this. I was like, this is pretty cool. I had done musical theater before that. I've always been a singer, but I never played an instrument. So I did musical theater in school, and I loved the community that it brought. But I won this contest, and it was, instant. It was the purest expression of myself that I had found, because you're always sort of playing someone else or some other thing or being a mirror when you're in musical theater. And since then, I just got serious about it. And it was sort of perpetual. The more I figured out about music and the way I make music, the more I figured out about myself and the way that I operate. And if I didn't have HS, which means I can't drink, can't smoke, can't eat any bad food, I would be a party animal, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a 20-year-old in California. You know, I'd be down at the beach drinking and having fun.
Mhm.
And I do still have fun, but you know, I'm really grateful that as a musician and someone who is susceptible, as a musician who's someone who's susceptible to emotions, I can't get into any of that stuff
Yeah.
for any reason. You know, I've just figured out it's not worth it.
Mhm. No, you're right. That's great. And so what do you think the future holds for you in terms of your music career? You're working on something at the moment.
This time has been I honestly love quarantine. It's pretty much the best. I have a pretty sweet setup in this room
Mm,
here, and I just write and I make music. Currently, I'm mixing a friend's EP, which will be out at some point. It's not announced or anything. But that's another one of my passions is producing and engineering. But really, the main thing is I'm working on an EP album. You know, 6 or 7 songs. To really debut myself. I have 1 or 2 songs out right now, but they're not fully representative. I put them out after I did American Idol,
yeah.
and I'll get to that in a second. But I needed them to, you know, here's a good song I wrote. It wasn't really truly. This is necessary. This is necessary of me to express. Um, and I think that's the key to a good songwriter. And you see these people, not necessarily pop stars. I'm not going to bash pop stars because they have a place, but the songwriters that we all love and that I love are writing and singing out of pure necessity. It's not like, oh, I love to do this and I want to be famous. It's, I have to show you what this is. I have to be understood. And I've figured out a way to do it through songwriting.
Wow. Oh, I can't wait to see that or hear that.
Yeah,
I look forward to it. Do you want to talk about a little bit about your time on American Idol?
for sure. It was last year, last March, March 25th, I think, was the episode that aired for me. Um, yeah, I went on the show. I made it to the top 60, which is not that far, but you know, it's I'm very, very grateful I even
That's
got there.
amazing, Jackson. Well, it's not that far. Oh my God. Yeah,
I give myself credit. I hate bragging, you know. I
that's
think
it's pretty good. It's pretty good, Jackson.
I think 100,000 people try out something like that, you know, especially with digital submissions now, something
Yeah.
like 100,000, 200,000. Um, but I went into it. Somebody approached me and said, you know, we want you to audition. And I said yes, without really. It was a great learning experience. But I went into it. Here's the way I rationalize it. If you're going on American Idol, if you're going on The Voice, if you're going on Britain's Got Talent, whatever,
Hmm.
you are saying, here is me. I want to promote this. And you should really only promote a finished product. Artists and musicians are never really finished. We're always evolving. But I wasn't a polished. I didn't know who I was at that time. You know,
Hmm.
I still don't. I'm still working on it, but
Yeah.
I finished the show and I looked back and I was like, why did I do that? Like, why did I just go on there? And I realized I just needed to put some work into figuring myself out and figuring out my sound and what I was going to be and how I was going to communicate myself through music and to figure out that thing that makes me me. You know, when you hear Stevie Wonder, it's like it's Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
It's not only his voice, but it's just the way he contextualizes his music and the way he thinks and it's jazzy, but it's still pop, you know. So that led me to London. In September, I went to a music school called ICMP, the Institute of Contemporary Music Performance, and I just got back on March 13th. We were actually supposed to meet up in
Yeah.
London, and I I was right about the time when everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. Really,
Yeah, I
really
know.
great
I love
time
London.
there.
I have to say a big thank you on behalf of all the people living with HS to you for being so brave on American Idol and talking so
Mm,
openly about your experience, because that was huge. That was huge for the HS community to have HS being talked about on a mainstream TV show that is kind of a prime time show and
yeah.
like has such a big viewership. That was phenomenal, and I think you've done a lot, knowingly or unknowingly, to help raise awareness for HS. I just want to say a big thank you from me and from all the HSers
I
as well.
totally I share your I mean, I got so many messages after that thing, and especially there's a big HS community on Facebook. You know, that video
Huge.
has I think 25 million views on Facebook,
Yeah, that's
which is
amazing.
just mind-boggling. And it all moves so fast. That was a year ago.
Yeah,
I just even now I'm just remembering Lionel Richie on national television saying, "What's the name of it? HS?
yeah.
HS." Like it's my and so many people sent these messages. I was crying for hours reading all these messages. You know, I was diagnosed 38 years ago. I've never told anybody. I thought I was going to take this to my grave, and I just told my family or whatever. And um, just incredible.
Yeah, it is. You've helped a lot of people and helping to make it a little bit more normal and less, I suppose, embarrassing to talk about. Seeing a young, attractive guy talking about it on the telly, it's really helpful. So keep that up, Jackson. I suppose on the last question that I have, and I ask everyone this because we all have different experiences, but we all have a lot of very similar experiences. And I think the way we handle ourselves and the way we deal with things can make a big difference. So, what advice do you have, or message of hope do you have for someone who might be struggling with their HS or struggling to kind of come to terms with it?
My advice would be that the next ridge is a lot closer than you think. That next getting over that hump is a lot closer than you think. And you're always going to feel like you're at the end of your rope and you don't have any slack left. But if you just keep pushing and you really need a change, it will come. And you have to manifest it in your brain and manifest it with those around you and the ones that you love, and it will come. You know, I I face it in in songwriting a lot, and I learned it from my hardship through HS. You know, I'll have a month period where I don't write anything. Well, I'll write something and it's not good. And just when I think like I'm screwed, I'm never going to be able to do this, bam, that's right when it hits me, you know. And that's what you have to keep yourself open for. And the same thing happened with when I was first diagnosed. You know, I remember sitting out on the curb and just completely life shattered. My parents picked me up. They're like, "Come on, let's go. We're gonna figure it out, one step at a time."
Hmm. That's great sentiment. So thank you so much, Jackson. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You really are an inspirational young man, and I can't wait to follow your career. And if I do want to follow you, which I am already, but how can I? Where are you? Where can we see your music? Where can we follow you on social media?
You can go to Jackson Gillies. My name is just Jackson.Gillies on Instagram. You can go to jacksonsings.com, sign up for an email list, and all my I have bios on there, um, and my music is on there. I'm also on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube, all that good stuff, and Facebook as well. You know, everywhere that you might find me on social media. And thank you so much for having me. This was so great.
Thanks a million, Jackson, and I hope to see you again soon.